Welcome to So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. This is season 4, Learning from Legends. And today we have a fantastic contributor to our show today. Her name is Kay Reddy, and I'm really excited for you to hear what she has to share. And it's funny when I have someone on like Kay, and she looks so young. If you're watching on video, you will see. I always say legend doesn't have to mean old. In fact, it shouldn't mean old. It just means that these are guests who have made a significant contribution to the real estate industry in some way, and whom I think our agents will from whom they'll learn a lot. So, Kay, we're really excited to have you on the show. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. I am so super excited. It is a pleasure to be on your show. So I'm excited for today.
Thank you. Thank you. So Kay was just sharing with me, she has been in real estate for 11 years and has some good messages, I think, to share with all of you, whether you are new to real estate, whether you hit kind of that little, like the bottom of that J curve where you're feeling like, oh, I don't know if I have what it takes to get me back up and get me back through this again. And there are 4 P's that you referred to when we were talking or when we were going back and forth via email earlier, the 4 P's that kept people stuck. So I want to have our audience hear what you mean by that. And or whether you're like you're pretty successful, you've done pretty well, and maybe you're like ready to set a new goal for yourself. I think Kay is the perfect person to talk us through reaching through to those next heights, or breaking through to that next level, or just giving yourself that pep talk that you need to keep going in a market that feels a little bit challenging right now. Kay, share with our audience how you found your way to real estate to begin with.
Yes. So it was actually an accident, I guess, or a favor. I would say that it was a favor for a friend of mine. He knew someone that was a real estate broker. They were looking for someone to do some part-time, like HUD inspections on bank-owned properties. And I was a stay-at-home mom at the time with my 4th child. And I'm like, okay, I'm not really looking to go back to work, but sure, I'll do it. I did that for about 3 weeks. Found that I'm like, okay, I quickly realized I don't want to do this, but I think I want to take a shot in real estate. I enrolled in the real estate classes. I didn't tell anybody in the office. I just did it because I wasn't sure if I was going to pass, if I was going to fail. So I didn't want to say anything. So I took the class. I took the state test. I passed. And I came in, I think it was actually on my birthday. I came in and was like, hey, I got my real estate license. I want to be a realtor now. I don't want to do the other part. So
that's amazing. So you had enough of a taste of the real estate industry to feel like, okay, I want to do this, but I don't want to do this part of it. That's so interesting. Did you know about yourself at all that you had any of like the natural attributes to be successful in real estate, or did you just sort of like feel that calling and you're like, I'm gonna get my license and see what happens?
Well, what happened is, I do have a background from sales. So prior to being a stay-at-home mom, everything I had done was sales, whether it been products or services. But the real estate piece was a little bit new, but I'm like, okay, I mean, how hard could it be, right?
Famous last words. How hard could it be?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. But I do think the sales background is helpful for a lot of agents getting into it, having some experience with some kind of like interfacing with a customer clientele. It does help a little bit. I don't think it's a necessity, but it does help. All right. So you got your license, you went in, you're like, yeah, I got my license. Then tell us what happened after that.
So after I got my license, super excited. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I'm ready to go. And so I dived right in and I quickly found like, okay, this is different. This is actually tough. Is what I experienced. And the brokerage that I was with at the time, they were older. So they had been in the business for years, and they were, kind of stuck in the traditional way of doing real estate. So no technology, no any of that. And so I found myself kind of struggling. And then I found myself in an office of other agents, but majority of them were really focused on what they were doing. And they really didn't have time for like the newbie, right, on the block. So everything that I learned, I literally had to learn by trial and error. There was like one person in the office that was, her and I kind of clicked, and she helped me out a lot. I even found myself even having to ask listing agents when I'm on the other side of the transaction, just because I was in my mind, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to make this work one way or another. So whatever I have to do, I'm going to do it, because what I'm not about to do is give up. And think about it. When I started in real estate, before I had even just actually went and did it, I asked several people that I knew, because the market was in a bad place. So when I started, and it's like, okay, so I started polling people like, what do you think? I'm thinking about doing real estate. What do you think? And literally every single person said, no, if I was you, I would not do it. And that made me want to do it more. I don't know. I guess I don't know if that's like I don't know what that is in me, but it made me want to do it more. And so in my mind, I was like, I can't fail at this. So I'm just going to make it work. So I did learn from a lot of trial and error, self study, and just kind of not being afraid of asking people, because the least worst thing that they could do was say no.
Love that. You just hit on so many good things in that piece of your story. When you think back, would you have made a different decision about the brokerage you joined, or do you think that's part of what created your strength as a resourceful agent and the success that you later experienced?
No, I think that's a very great question. I think I would still go the same path that I took, because for one, it helped me. It taught me how to work in a market when the market was what most people consider to be a bad market. So I learned how to, work foreclosures. I knew how to do short sales. Whereas otherwise, I may not have learned that had I been somewhere else. I don't know. But I think because of me being there and everything that I was faced with, it forced me to learn things that I may not have otherwise learned, that has helped me in my business.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. Tom Ferry always says that bad markets make strong agents and easy markets make lazy agents. So the market you were in and the perseverance that you had, and maybe even the fact that you were in this kind of environment with people who were not all that helpful and kind of like trying to figure out things out for themselves, really forced you to do more. You also said that, you were like, I'm going to do this. It sounds to me like there was not a plan B for you. Is that right?
Yeah, no, there wasn't a plan B. Actually, just go back home and be a stay-at-home mom. But I did love like the interaction with other adult people.
Yes, that is one of the upsides of doing real estate as a parent. Even though there's a lot of challenge, you do get that outlet of being around other adults who like can speak in full sentences and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's really nice sometimes. So I always wonder about when I'm interviewing an agent to be on my team, and we'll fast forward to your rest of your story in a second. But you're a managing broker; you're not a solo agent anymore. But I'm curious to know your take on this. When I interview people, I often ask, what's your plan B if real estate doesn't work out for you? And what I'm hoping they'll say is, I don't have a plan B. Like, this is it. I'm all in. Do you agree that that's the right attitude, or is there a possibility? Is there a world in which a plan B can work in real estate?
I think that when you don't have a plan B, it does kind of force you to pull on things that are within you that you probably didn't even realize was there, because it's kind of like a fight or flight situation. Either you're going to make it work, or what else do you have to fall back on? So I think when you do kind of have a plan B, it may cause some people to get comfortable and to get complacent, and they may not give it their all because they have this cushion that they know that they can fall back on. But when you don't have that cushion, I'm telling you, you're going to pull on everything that you didn't even realize was on the inside of you to make it work.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, which just creates a huge perseverance and kind of a sense of accomplishment, I think, as you go through the rest of your career. So you got through those first years of figuring things out on your own. Was there a time that you were ever like, okay, I think I got this. Like, I think maybe I'm going to be good at this. Did you ever have that like epiphany, or was it a continual sort of gradual climb to accomplishment?
No, I think, and the crazy thing about this is it's just not until maybe within the last 3 years, I said, okay, I got it. I think I'm in the swing of things. You know, things are looking up, things are moving, things are progressing. And I think it just got to the point to where I was able to build a comfortable enough business to where I not only had, you know, still going after new clients and things like that, but I had built up a base of referrals. And so it's like, okay, I think I got it. My head is above water. I'm understanding this thing a little bit more. And at that point, it's like, okay, now I'm able to kind of shift just a little bit. I'm still in personal production, but now I think I'm able to take on other people and help them get from where I was to where I am now.
I love that. Yeah. And that is a huge shift to make. And we'll talk about that in a second. I want to have you share with the audience where you think the majority of your like kind of success came from. Like, what's your unique ability that you think you have? Is it cold calling? Is it working your sphere of influence? Is it geofarming? Is there like one thing that you're like, yeah, that's like my kind of solid foundational go-to for lead generation?
My one thing would be social media.
Social media. Okay. I like this answer. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I love social media. I am always on social media. And so what I found is, so there is, I don't want to say like a secret, because not really a secret, but there is like a formula to social media. And that formula is you just have to give value. You just have to be present on social media, and you have to begin to speak the language in which your ideal client understands. And I think once people get that, then social media becomes a lot more easier. And then you'd find a lot more success in social media. And then you have to get over the fear of actually being on social media, which I do now, but I didn't really like video and going live and stuff like that. But I just had to get over myself and just do it.
Right. I hear that all the time from agents that, you know, I don't look good on video. I feel like I don't feel good. I don't sound good. And, you know, again, quoting Tom Ferry, he always goes, if you're worried about what you look like, stop worrying about yourself. Like, think what of the value that you're trying to give. And I want to dig into that a little bit. What in your mind is the meaning of giving value on social media?
You have to be the solution to someone's problem. And so you have to understand what the problem is before you're able to provide the solution. I think oftentimes we just are on social media just for, and I don't get me wrong, I am social on social media, but I'm also intentional when I am on social media. And so you have to understand whatever your clientele is, you have to understand what their problem is, and you have to begin to provide the solution. So I often tell my agents, don't just say, do you want to buy and sell a home? Because in my mind, you know, someone may want to buy a home, but they may not even realize that they can buy a home. So you have to, if you're working with, you know, first time home buyers or whatever, you have to begin to say things like, hey, did you know that you could purchase a home with a 600 credit score or whatever? You have to begin to say things that resonate with the people that you want to work with, because I may want to buy a home, but I may think that my score needs to be 650 or 700. So I may not even bother because I already feel like in my mind, I'm not qualified. But if I'm scrolling social media and my score is a 610 and I see somebody post like, hey, we have programs that you could buy a house at 600. Now that piques my interest because like, oh, well, I didn't have to wait till I got to 700. Let me check this out. And so I'm more apt to respond than I am with just a, do you want to buy or sell?
Yes, this is like really getting my wheels turning. I love this topic so much. And I'm so glad this is where we're going on this conversation, because I think this is going to be this is different than what we normally talk about on the podcast. And I think it's something that's going to resonate with our audience in the way that you're talking about resonating with your audience. Would you say that there's like a top kind of a strategy for identifying what those problems are that your audience is going to want you to help solve, or is going to kind of like catch their ear, you know, their eye as they're looking through social media? Is there like a series of questions somebody asks? Is it more like listening as you're out in the market and talking to people about what questions they're asking? What do you tell your agents on that?
I think it's a combination because you do have to understand. So first you have to understand who's my ideal client? Who do I want to work with? And once you know that, then you have to go a little bit further and say, okay, where do they work? Where do they play? What do they do for fun? Where are they? And then you have to kind of insert yourself where they are, whether that means on social media groups or whether that means physically where they are. And then you begin to ask questions. I tell my agents all the time, it's okay to poll people, to say, hey, like if you were to buy a house, like what are your concerns? What's stopping you from purchasing a home? Or what's stopping you from selling a home if you're trying to work with sellers? So I think asking them those questions and then you being that resource to provide the solution, whether that means you already have the information, whether that means you connecting with lenders who can service what they need, whatever that means, you kind of have to place yourself in that sphere of where they are so that you can begin to talk to them.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Meet people where they are. I think it's a phrase we always use to talk about that. And then when you sort of figure out where people are, do you think that that also pertains to the platform on social media, or are you a person who is like, no, use all of the platforms?
I would say start where you're most comfortable first.
Okay.
And then kind of move from there. So when I first started, I was heavily on Facebook because that's where I was comfortable. That's where I started. And then so I was able to hire an assistant part-time. And then he's like, okay, we need to kind of venture out. And so then we start working on Instagram. And then now, like with Instagram and Facebook, you can kind of merge them together, if you will. So when you post on Instagram, it automatically posts on Facebook. So just kind of making use of whatever platform you are, getting comfortable there, and then kind of expanding to other platforms. And also it makes a difference too, depending on your audience, you have to know where your audience is. If you're trying to attract, people fresh out of college who, maybe first time home buyers, maybe they're going to be on Instagram, maybe they're going to be on TikTok. So you have to kind of understand where your audience, the majority of your audience, spend their time if you're going to be on social media.
And do you think it's important also to understand the different platforms in terms of like the content that's appropriate for each platform? Or like, is it terrible form to asking for a friend? Is it terrible form to post the same content across all of the different platforms? Like if you have a video of, let's say you're doing a video with a client who's telling you, the story of how you help them purchase their house. Can you put that same video on all the platforms, or do you need to repurpose or edit the content for the different platforms?
No, I think you can utilize what I found in my experience is that I've been able to utilize my videos across all of the platforms in which I use. So I think for the most part you can. I mean, if you have something that's, a little bit like more trendier on TikTok, I may sometimes what I will do is kind of edit the verbiage that is going to actually go in the post, but maybe not so much edit the content that's within the video, if that makes sense.
Total sense. Yes. I'm so glad you said that, because that's what I've been doing too. And I've also been choosing different music on TikTok for the big TikTok people. I'm not a big TikTok person, but I realized that it's important for me to start posting on TikTok. So what we've been doing is like looking at trending sounds and trending music, and that seems to help your engagement on TikTok.
No, that does help engagement, and also hashtags.
Hashtags, yes, very important too. Yeah. All right, so you're out there on social media. Well, let me ask you one more question on this. So then you get an agent who's working with you, and they're seeing what you're doing. They're seeing your success. They want to emulate you. They're still like terrified of making that first video or going live. What do you do to get people over that emotional obstacle, kind of that hump?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if we're kind of transitioning here, but this is what usually helps. And that's where the 4 Ps come in at, because oftentimes, so the 4 Ps are playing small, procrastination, perfection, and people pleasing. Those 4 things, if you buy into that, it's literally going to keep you stuck and stagnated in your business. And the most important one is perfection. That was me, that everything I felt like I had to do, it had to be perfect. And I would not put out any content. I would redo my video 1,000 times before I actually put it out. But what I found is that was just keeping me in the same place without moving. And so I just had to get comfortable enough to say, you know what? I'm just going to do it, because it's us who's the most hardest on ourselves. People, what I feel is that when you're giving people information, they really don't even look at the things that you're critiquing in your videos, because they just want the information. And so I tell my agents, if you knew that there was people out there waiting for you, how long would you continue to make them wait? They can't move unless you do something. So how they're depending on you. So how long are you going to make them wait?
I love that. I love that. That's so true. And I think that that fear of being imperfect or being perceived as imperfect is a huge hurdle for people to get over. That's amazing. Wow. Okay. So procrastination, perfectionism. What were the other two?
Plan small.
Playing small. What's that mean?
Plan small means you know that you can do more, but you don't. And also plan small means that you don't give yourself enough credit. Like oftentimes we feel like we don't have much to give, when in actuality, we have a lot to give. Even if you feel like the little bit that you have to give, I guarantee you it's more than what a whole lot of other people even know.
Love that. Love that. And
So
what's
we
the
have to get out of that. And then the other one is people pleasing.
Oh.
You're not going to be able to please everyone. It's just impossible. So guess what? I don't even try. I do not try to please everyone. I just have my task at hand. I know what it is that I'm going to do, and I just push forward and do just that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I love that. Really, really wise kind of guidepost for people. And you're so right. Those are 4 things that really do get in the way of success. I think in every arena that can apply to video, or picking up the phone to call somebody, or going out and talking to someone about real estate, doing any kind of lead generation, even just getting your license. Sometimes it can be like the thing. All right. So I want to go to where you are now for a minute. So you are a managing broker. Tell us where you are. What does your brokerage look like? What does your kind of job in life look like today?
Okay. So when I started in this position, the brokerage that I'm with, it was brand new to Michigan. So it wasn't brand new brokerage, but it was brand new to Michigan. So my position was to help open up the market in Michigan. So there were 0 agents here in the state of Michigan. This was December 2020 when I started here. And so from there to now, I think we've built the state to maybe about 90 agents. Wow. That we've been able to build the state to. So my day-to-day looks like, so I hold 2 positions here. So I'm the state managing broker, and then I have a district, which would be, I'm in Michigan, so it would be kind of like the southern eastern part of the state. And so in my personal district, there's probably about 65 agents. Okay. That I'm responsible for. So part of my day-to-day is, bringing on new talent and helping those that are already here, whether that be going through trainings or, just questions and, just so kind of helping them in their business. So that's kind of what that piece is. And then I also coach and mentor other agents. And so that's a little bit more personal to where it is that they want to go.
Okay. Is there any kind of a specialty coaching, unique value prop that you have, or do you coach based on what people need?
It's kind of based on what people need, but I tend to focus on attraction marketing, being able to attract people so that helps them increase their sales.
Love it. Love it. And the reason I wanted to kind of fast forward and show the kind of before and after here a little bit is because I know a lot of our audience, especially this season, are in this kind of transitional moment, or maybe they're having a moment of whether they transitioned the right way, where they're either deciding, is it time to either bring on that assistant? Is it time to grow a team? Is it time to jettison my whole team and go back to being a solo agent? Or they're starting to like feel that kind of push pull of, I'm growing a team. I'm thinking about this as a business now, but I also am still in personal production, and that's a tough place to be. So I wanted to dig into that a little bit and figure out, talk us through a little bit, how did you get from that moment of like, okay, I'm a top producer, I'm killing this, I'm doing this. And I know you had a calling in you to kind of help and coach other people, but how did you manage that transformation from solo producer to the shift that I know happens mentally in terms of like, I'm the star, I'm doing everything, to now I want to help you be the star and I want to help you do everything. How do you balance that?
Yeah, it's, you know what, I have an assistant, so I'm going to start there. So that helps me stay on track because I have a lot of things that I have, kind of in the works. But I think the transition though was because I knew how I started and I knew how tough that was for me. But I just had that determination that I wasn't going to quit. But I was like, if I am able to help other agents not feel kind of what I felt in the beginning and not have to go through what I went through, but still learn and still be successful, that's what I want to do. So that was the transition. So it was easy kind of for me to make the decision or the transition that, hey, I want to help other people. And I've always had a passion for women being successful in business. And so no, nothing to the men. I love men. But just as a woman and just kind of my previous background of things that I went through, I decided like, you know what, I really want to focus on women because I want to see women succeed. And so because I was in real estate, it just so happened to fall in line in the industry of real estate, but definitely keeping me balanced and on track is definitely prayer and definitely my assistant.
The assistant is huge. And I think you're right. Like the mental work that you have to do, whether it's prayer, meditation, there's always that kind of, mindset work that we have to do to keep growing. And it sounds to me like, hearing all of this, really your focus remained on giving value, providing value to people. That's the one kind of like through line I'm hearing as you're telling your story, is when you focus on providing value, giving value to others, meeting other people where they are, the rewards just came back to you, which is pretty amazing. And I know you also provide value in another way, similar to what we're doing here, which is that you have your own podcast. Tell us about that.
So my podcast is called Wired with Kay Reddy. And basically so Wired is women inspired to rise, empower, and dominate. And so basically it's about women who have overcome obstacles in their industry or in their career. And now they didn't allow that to stop them. And now they are dominating or, successful in what it is that they do.
Love it, love it, love it. And where can we find your podcast?
It's on all the platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen pretty much to your podcast. You can look me up and I'm there.
Amazing. You are really inspirational, I have to say. What's next for you? What do you have on I know you're a person who always has stuff going on. So what's next in Kay's plan for total world domination?
I know, right? So I'm really excited. A couple things. I was just nominated to receive the President Biden Lifetime Achievement Award. So I have that coming up. So super excited about that. Thank you. And I just filmed my first episode of the American Dream TV. So I'm a host here in the Metro Detroit area. So that should be airing sometime in July. So I'm excited about that. So that's kind of what's like next, I guess, on my radar.
Fantastic. Congratulations. And are you continuing to build your brokerage where you are?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You're continuing to build your brokerage where you are?
Yeah, I'm still real estate. So, and that's why I tell people, they're like, oh my God, you have so many things going on. But here's the key. Everything that I do all goes together. So it doesn't feel like I'm doing all these separate things. So the managing broker is real estate. Coaching and mentoring, it's real estate.
Mhm.
The American Dream TV show, it's real estate. It's
Mhm.
community and lifestyle, but it's real estate. And then the podcast, it's women in business, and most of them are real estate. So I think that's what helps with what I'm doing, is because they all feed off of one another.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And they do. And they all feed back into one another too. I think
Mhm.
the more you're out there giving of yourself and being visible and being a resource to others, obviously the more it comes back to you. Now, if people want to find out more about you, your services, your brokerage, being part of your team, how can they find you, Kay?
Okay, pretty simple. My website is just my first and last name, kready.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok.
And are you
I'm
like at Kay Ready? What's
yeah,
like?
most of my platforms are KReady Empowers, or
Oh,
just
okay, great.
KReady, or
Okay.
just KReady. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Anything else you want to share? Any like parting words as we wrap up?
The only thing I want to say to those that are listening is to know that you got this. Like, you can do it. All you have to do is just a little bit shifting in your mindset. But I promise you, you have everything on the inside of you to do whatever it is that you want to do. And I am rooting for you.
Love it. Thank you so much, Kay. This has been phenomenal. And thank you everyone for listening today. I know you've gotten a lot out of what Kay has shared. Check out her podcast. I'm going to check that out myself. And please remember to leave us a review or rating anywhere that you are listening. We are so grateful when we have kind words come in for you or suggestions for things we can do better. We love those as well. And please keep your show ideas coming. Thank you again for listening. Kay, thank you so much for being on today. This is amazing.
Thank
And
you for having me.
oh my gosh, it was a pleasure. And thank you all. We will see you next time. This has been So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. If you're like most real estate agents, you have probably lost out in the competitive listing situation because the listing went to that local expert. The seller called you up and said, well, we decided to go in a different direction. We went with the neighborhood in this market, in this neighborhood, in this area. So you might be asking yourself, how do you become that local expert and why do they get all the listings? Well, you'll find out when you read this. This is Farming for Real Estate Agents. It really is a blueprint for exactly how to become that go-to local expert and win those listings.